Hola, ¿qué tal? Aquí Julio Monroy desde Delta Records. Hoy tenemos otro gran invitado. Él es el director de Oceanway Nashville Studios. Es Joe Baldridge y recuerden que este live va a ser totalmente en inglés. Así que aquí vamos. Hi Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, Julio. Nice to be here with you today.
Thank you for being here with us. And we are with David Sikar. Hi Sik, how are you?
Hello, everyone. How are you? Thanks a lot for connecting with us today. Joe, it's a huge honor to have you here and looking forward for the conversation from the people watching. Remember that you can actually ask questions on the platform on which you're watching through the comment section, and I will read the questions to both Julio and Joe. I leave you with the conversation.
Thank you, Sik. Well, Joe, thank you for being here with us. I met Joe at Mexico City last year, and we had a great time there at the Soundcheck Expo. Thank you, Joe, for being here.
Yes, I'm honored to be here with you and David and your audience. I appreciate the invite. Look forward to seeing you
Thank you,
this
my
year.
friend. Yeah, yeah, we'll be there. We will talk about this later. Well,
Yes, yes,
Joe, we have a question for our guest, and it's
sure,
mandatory. So, can you tell us how did you become an audio engineer? Your
sure.
history.
Yep. So you want me to go now? My history, how
Yeah.
I became an audio engineer. Unlike probably not that different from a lot of people, I started playing guitar and playing in bands. And I soon discovered that I was really into um, like working on the songs and felt that I had like an actual um, more of a desire to be a part of the audio recording than to actually be a performer. So the bass player in my group and myself, we started writing songs, and we had a 4-track recorder that had track 3 was broken. So we would fill up track 1 and 2, bounce to 4, and continue. And that was in middle school into high school. So probably from like 13 to like 16, 17, continued in bands, then looked for recording city to go to learn more things. And I looked at lots of different programs that were offered, and I chose Nashville and Belmont, and that was in proximity to where I grew up in Illinois. And I came down in the 1980s and started going through an education program, and then I got into studios as an intern in a jingle company, and then that got me around a lot of the best players in Nashville because they would tend to do jingle work before they went into records, and yeah, it just was one thing after another, and eventually I worked my way into the control room as an engineer, as the first. I never assisted. Um, so it was sort of that window of opportunity where you could go in and kind of do everything with the producer and the artist, and I snuck through that, and then you know, recording jingles and developing bands and different things got me into uh, doing records for independent labels and major labels, and then that got me to travel. So yeah, that was it. Was always a desire to find great sound makers like the ones behind me on the wall, amplifiers, microphones, good singers, and things like that, and become a recording engineer.
And how was well, when you were an intern in the studio, how, what did you do in
So
that time?
in that time, what I was doing primarily, it was interesting because it was a jingle company. So you had writer producers in house working with the advertising agencies, with the brands like soft drinks and chewing gum and pizza companies and beer companies and all this sort of stuff. So they were always looking for new talent. So as an intern, I would go through a giant box of demos and try and find talent and organize them in genres and what their talents were, and list if there were multiple talents, and then provide that on a sheet with a basically a mixtape of this new talent. So if they heard someone that was of interest, they could reach out to them, contact them, and they would generally get to start on demos and then work their way into masters on jingles, which was a very profitable um, way to spend your time as a session singer or a musician. If you got on a national ad and it was on television, that was a really good year. So that's what I was doing. Then after that, it was everything: sweeping floors, emptying trash cans, making coffee, straightening up the room, wrapping cables, cleaning the patch bay, making copies. We had to do tape edits. So in jingles, you would have a piece of music that was targeted to be a minute long, and you would have to cut versions out of that. Especially television was more like 30 seconds, and could you do 15 seconds? Could you have 10
Wow.
seconds? So you would cut all these different things out of one recording. So
Wow.
yeah, so it was really good to learn arrangement, and at that point there was no undo. Once you cut the tape was separated. So you know it was kind of trial by fire. So
Yeah, and
um,
how much time were you working as an intern?
more than I was going to class.
Yeah, yeah, but I guess you learned a lot in the studio.
Definitely. It was your 10,000 hours. It was easy to achieve that in a short period of time. So I interned for maybe 2 semesters, and the owner of the jingle company, I was waiting tables at a restaurant downtown, and he brought his family in, and he saw how he saw my hustle, and he knew my hustle from the studio. So then he gave me a shot to come on hourly and then start engineering demos. And that was a wonderful experience because, unbeknownst to me, I had really great equipment. I knew it sounded great. I knew I wanted to make it sound better, but it was a very good um, Oxford, England Soundcraft, which was just an incredible sound. There wasn't a lot of electronics to it. MCI 1-inch 8-track and a Revox um, uh, quarter-inch mix-down machine, and all of those were tremendous sounding electronics. So we had a Putnam Universal Audio Tube 175 compressor and a parametric EQ, and a couple of Neve preamps, and it was I was very fortunate to train my ear through that sort of equipment.
Yeah, yeah, well, I guess it was an amazing experience. And Joe, can you tell us more about the history when you entered to Oceanway Nashville Studios?
So um, after doing jingles and things like that, I had a couple of friends who wrote, and a lot of friends played on these demos, and major labels became very interested in them. So while I was in school, getting close to graduating, my friend got signed and that to Atlantic Records. So I'd been doing some development, and there was a really great opportunity in Nashville at that point at Vanderbilt with college radio, that you could make things locally, and it would get played on the radio. So I was pretty much into that, and going more into being in clubs and seeing bands and recording bands, developing bands. And a couple of my friends got signed to Atlantic Records, and they went to Los Angeles to A&M Studios on La Brea, which has been the Henson Studios, which I think an investor group that John Mayer's in has just recently purchased on La Brea in Los Angeles. It was Charlie Chaplin's studio. So as a young man, I was in this studio, which at that point was run by Jimmy Iovine and Shelley Yakis. And they were in Cabana 1, and it's before Interscope. And Jimmy was executive producer for Atlantic Records over my friend's project. So I got to have that experience with Mark DeSisto, David Tickle, all of these incredible engineers in this like world-class studio, and what it was like to see a session with that much collaboration and people and assistance, and the high level of attention to detail, and amazing players on that record. So that pretty much solidified my desire to make this a career. So then I came back to Nashville after going with that artist, working more on the business marketing and working directly with Atlantic Records New York on that artist. After that record cycle, I came back and started like recording and producing bands, and then that took me into other deals and development of baby bands and contemporary Christian artists. One of them was young artistry called DC Talk, and we made an album that ended up being listened to by a lot of people. So later on in my career, a lot of different people that I worked with or became acquaintances with, like Kelly Clarkson, Ryan Tedder, but the great late Busby. All these people grew up listening to that record. So it sort of like gave me this path as an engineer. I was always more creative than like a technical, like a tech sort of engineer. I was a creative engineer. So that took me into records with artists, and I met Mark Volman in Leadership Music, which is an organization in Nashville where people inside of the music industry from all different areas go through like a year together, and you kind of look at like what it takes to make something, promote something, engage an audience, tour every aspect of entertainment. And in my class, there were several people that I can't believe I had the opportunity to be around, but one of those was Mark Volman, and I loved Mark Volman and Howard from the Turtles. And I was more impressed with Mark just because they sang all the background vocals on the T-Rex albums. And Mark encouraged me to come back to Belmont and to start giving back like education. So about 2010, I did some adjunct. 2013, I was being faculty at Belmont University here in Nashville, as well as making records with like top country artists, and doing a lot of tracking and mixing. And then I started moving towards wanting to be at Oceanway. So in 2022, I just started my third year. So January of 23. I took over as director of Oceanway, and I still get to teach one class. And just having that experience of being non-traditional music creator in Nashville, obtaining the experience with other types of music in different cities and then in the world, and coming back and bringing that into the classroom. And Oceanway was a natural home because we get all genres and all different types of recorded audio. So yeah, I'm very happy and very fortunate to be at Oceanway Nashville, in the lineage of how this place became such an amazing studio with Alan Sides and Gary Bells, and then how Mike Kerb and Mike Curb as a incredible businessman and creator, and his support at Belmont, how he has made, and these people that have gone before us have made these places where people can come and create. So we'll have orchestra. We had Disney in last week. We have a blues project with Joe Bonamassa going on right now downstairs. There's just lots of different things every day, and that kind of feeds my ADD. So I'm at home.
Wow. Oh, amazing, amazing, Joe. And well, we have some pictures of Ocean Way. I would like you, if you can tell us more about the places that we have here.
Yes, so this is the Studio A control room, and that is the outboard gear that is in that room. We've added where that panel is underneath the Fairchild. There's an Eventide omnipressor, which I'm so glad that Eventide is making that again. I believe our friend John Krivitz with Eventide being on some educator panels with that, and the success of the omnipressor as a plug-in, I think that really inspired them to. And I was on one of those meetings where the creators of the creator of the omnipressor was like, we could probably make those again, and then a year later there they were. So we have 4 of them, 2 in that room, 2 in the other room, and we have all of the Bill Putnam Sr. This is the tracking room.
It's like
This
a
was,
church.
yeah, it was the sanctuary of a church. There's a lot of history there. The church was built and opened in started in 1912, was up and running 1918. Has a long history of creativity and like a connection bigger than just like it's space. People really kind of feel that. The stained glass windows came from a church downtown. There was, from what I understand from the history, there was a church downtown that was charging people to come to church. So there's a large part of the congregation who thought that was wrong, and they built this church.
Wow.
Tennessee
And
was.
what about the acoustics of that place?
It's amazing. So Alan Sides and Gary Bells and an incredible tech named Sal Greco. Sal Greco came from Electric Lady. He built Prince's studio
Wow.
in Minneapolis at his home. He built Paisley Park. He built Prince's room in Los Angeles, and he built in Oceanway, Los Angeles. Longtime friend of Alan Sides. So Ernie Woody, Alan Sides, Gary Bells, Sal Greco, they got the treatment in the ceiling, and they made the control room. And Alan was here last week, which was amazing. And there have been several people who have recorded in that, and it's incredible for orchestra. It's incredible for rock and roll. It just has a sound, and a very controlled sound. So it gives you something back.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful. It's awesome. It's great. Alan, hasn't been involved with it. I mean, he is involved with it like it's one of his children. He's so proud of the place. It was nice. He was here, and he brought around Oceanway Audio team and a bunch of other technicians and speaker company, and was basically showing them, showing the place that they created. It makes them very excited that it's still busy every day, 7 days a week. So,
Oh, yeah, they are beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful place. I hope one day I can be here. It's look amazing.
I'd love for you to come visit. This is Studio B that you saw
Thank you.
the outboard gear for that. And this is the tracking space. That's the outboard gear that is in Studio B. This is more of like for a 5-piece band. The piano that is in the back right booth, came from Devonshire in Los Angeles. It was probably one of the first C7 Yamaha pianos in the U.S. It's like around 1970, and it went to Devonshire Studios in Los Angeles, and it's pretty likely from the person who played piano on the early Billy Joel records as a session player that's the piano that was used on those Billy Joel records recorded at Devonshire.
Wow.
Yeah, with B3s in every room. This is Studio C. This is more of a digital mix room. We do mastering in here and classes and overdubs. So sometimes artists, they really kind of like the feel. If there were other pictures of the back of the room, it's like a nice carpet and a couch, and people like to do overdubs. So we had John Shanks and John Bon Jovi um, doing like overdubs in there.
Wow, John Bon Jovi, we are fan. We are fans
We're
of
huge
John
fans.
Yeah,
Bon
Yeah.
Jovi.
yeah, a really great person, and everyone around that group are amazing. So this is the tracking side of the control room that you just saw. We have recently made modifications where those curtains are. That has been removed, and these are going to be two control rooms. One is going to be an analog immersive mix room, and the other one that you just saw with the lights and the fireplace and the stone, that's going to be a digital immersive mix room for broadcast. So, yeah,
Hmm.
those are a few of the things we're doing. The piano will stay. That piano is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Let me check the last picture, Sig, please. Let me see. Oh, this is a piano. It's very old.
Yeah,
It's old.
it is. There was a musician instrument collector, and a lot of those hit instruments, mandolins, acoustics, and all of this went into the George Gruen collection, which is on Belmont's campus. It's called the Gig. It's a really cool um, guitar museum, mandolins, all things with strings. But they didn't want the piano, so we got the piano, and it sounds amazing. Brent Arledge, who maintains and tunes most of the pianos for sessions, he has been working on it consistently, and yeah, people love just to go over and play it and write and work ideas out. It's got a lot of magic in it.
Hey, Joe, and how Ocean Way Nashville serves the education community at Belmont? Can you tell us more
So
about it?
yes, we have a bachelor's of science in audio engineering technology, and we have a bachelor's of business administration in music business. But as a music business um, emphasis, you have minors, and so you can minor in production and get into audio classes. So the way the Oceanway serves Belmont and those undergraduate degrees are the upper classes. They're meet here. We also have School of Music, studio instrumentalists, studio singers. There's probably a scoring from the School of Music course coming, and we do those at Oceanway. So those upperclassmen get to be in Studio B, and they get to be in Studio C, and they do well in the program. They can become student workers, usually in their last semester of their junior year and their senior year. They will apply to be student workers here, and they earn basically they're interns. But since it's part of the university, they're paid an hourly wage, and they get to be around commercial sessions and kind of get the feel for like what a large creative team, working on an orchestra score for a game or a film, or someone working at a pretty high level as an artist in country, blues, hip hop, pop, what that's like. The classes that occur here are Audio 2 in the Curb College at Belmont University is Audio 2 with Leslie Richter from the Recording Academy P&E wing. Leslie uh, teaches Audio 2, and those are junior level students, and that's sort of the um, what you work towards in the AET program, to be in that class and really explore the functionality of all different sorts of designs, microphones, dynamics, equalization, and you get to make your own recording. So you track a band, you overdub, you edit, you mix, and you develop this on your own as a first, and while supporting all the information and things that you had learned coming up through the program, you really like go in depth, hands-on, practical, with a pretty intense, um, syllabus and curriculum for really making sure that you understand signal flow and gain staging. And then after that, you're free to go into recording workshop. Ed C teaches that class, and that is taught here on Saturdays for 6 hours. And he has a wealth of information from being at Southern Tracks in Atlanta and being here with Paul Worley, and just, I mean, incredible discography across a lot of genres. Ed takes them through different miking techniques and different things to use on instruments. We have a master mix class. I teach one section. Joe Martino, my good friend, teaches the other. We basically take people through finished recordings of how to develop that for a commercially viable mix, and we make them go across multiple genres, and they get a couple of things that are like curveballs that they get to pick to be involved with. And then we have those School of Music courses here, where people in the School of Music who have an interest in the studio, they're here today. So there's two sections of studio instrumentalist. In the spring and the fall, there's two sections of studio vocalist. We also have a songwriting degree, and a lot of those people that have come through there have gone on to be huge hit makers and signed to publishers and write a lot of hits. So we sort of collaborate between Curb with the music business, with the audio engineering, with the songwriting program, and with the musicians and singers of the School of Music. Hulu is streaming Christmas. Amazon Prime is streaming Christmas at Belmont, which is the School of Music, and a lot of the live sound reinforcement and audio people of Belmont creating this program alongside professionals. So that was streamed this year from December 11th, and I think it's still available. But you kind of get the idea of the School of Music, of the level of orchestra players, and how that is going with them educating and bringing that back into not only are we doing the technical aspect and the production and the business side, we have the School of Music creating like really refined musicians in jazz and classical and bluegrass. And then you have and songwriting people writing hit music for all different genres.
Looks like a great place to learn music. Looks amazing.
It,
For what I hear,
it's
it's like wow.
yeah, it's pretty cool because you're in, like, basically 2 square miles, Music Row, Belmont campuses at the top, and you have all of a lot of independent publishers, a lot of major labels and major publishers right there. So you can connect. I mean, that's always what it was about. It was started by Belmont's interest in sorry about that. What became the Curb College always hinged upon professionals wanting to kind of, and that's a very much a Mike Curb thing. Is he's created probably 20 programs in universities across North America that he's helped fund just to help people learn entertainment so that they work smart.
Yeah, yeah. It looks wow. Hey, Joe, I was checking here the comments, and it seems that we have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Sick.
We do have some questions. First question from I am Booth. Do you use more the hardware or the software of the same gear? Example, Omnipressor.
Um, Different purposes. I use both. I would probably, given the choice to have like to have the omnipressor in a tracking session, I would be using the hardware. And then it's a very extreme dynamic unit. There's Innovonics omnipressor. There's another one called, I think, Orange County. These were like very aggressive units, like more aggressive than the Silver Blue Badge 1176. So they're really fun and they're really great. Like PSP's plug-in vintage warmer. You can get a great sound, and you can also destroy your sound with all of these units. So I try to use them in tracking when it's hardware, and then I will use them throughout when I'm looking to bring a certain feeling or aggression or interest. After record, I will use the plugins. And there are many people who make great versions of like the 1176 and the 1178 Fairchild LA2As, and that Eventide Omnipressor is a very unique thing, and the Eventide plugin I really like.
Yeah, that's an amazing uh, signal processing. The omnipressor. I like it. I have
It's
the
great.
plugin, and it's like wow.
Oh yeah, the it was one of the only analog pieces that could basically do upward expansion.
Yeah.
So that's basically compression inverted. So when it crosses the threshold, when a transient crosses the threshold, it actually raises the level of the transient as opposed to suppress.
Mhm.
So yeah, it can get really crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you, Eventide. Thank you, Ian, for your question.
Thank you. We actually have a lot of people saying hi through Instagram. Felipe Calle, Juanes Acosta, Deacon Star. A lot of people are connecting, so thank you a lot for being here with us. We do have more questions. We have a question from us to the world. How do you think the industry has changed thanks to technology, especially in the way we find and produce music?
Wow. I mean, that's a great question. I wish I had an answer.
No.
Uh, the way it changed is it got harder to find really exceptional material, and it seems that everything technology is supporting to bring into it, as far as automated processes or these sort of things, it seems to be you know, I would just like to say, so partially it's kind of an old guy statement, it's an older person's statement, but I really do feel that it's in a lot of ways making things very similar and good enough as opposed to exceptional. So it's also made like a system that isn't really curated in the same manner as when I was coming up. You had music professionals, and there was good and bad. There's good and bad to everything. But there was a lot of like curation and development and good sound advice to bringing people to a different level of development. And a lot of those systems have gone away. We'll see tomorrow. Luminate will release its 2024 year-end report. So it was an unbelievable amount of things that were uploaded in 2023, and the engagement was pretty scary. So if you look at the amount of things that become available through the internet for someone to pick to listen to, it was pretty depressing as a creator to have to compete with 184 million other things that just occurred throughout the world into the internet in 2023. It'll be interesting to see what happens now. I mean, it doesn't really change hard work, original ideas, being smart about how you build a business as an artist, and it's art for commerce. It's not music friends, it's music business. And if you want to do it for a long time, it still takes a lot of like dedication and practice, and guts to take risk, and experience is the thing you needed right after something really bad or unavoidable happened. So the only way that you do that is to do things and fail and keep going. So I think I don't think it's made it any easier to reduce the amount of failure or criticism or lack of engagement. I think it's probably made it harder to fight through in certain ways. I think that having unlimited takes, unlimited ability for track count, all different ways to process and manipulate are incredible, but in the wrong hands, they hasten mediocrity faster than the other methods. So I mean, it's just like anything. You could grab an instrument and plug it into something and have a lot of great patches and do that, or you could combine a lot of different pieces from different places and learn of what each one does and configure them in a way that is competitive to the other thing, but unique enough to stand out. And it I guess what I'm using a lot of words to say. It still takes a lot of dedication and practice, listening and processing and risk taking. That I don't think that'll ever change.
Yeah, and risk taking. That's true. Well, thank you. It was a difficult question, and
Yeah, but for
you
example,
knew it.
you knew the answer, yeah. But for example, what do you think about the fact that now creating music is actually accessible for a lot of people, like you were saying, and it actually can create this mediocre scenery? Don't you think that it might actually make things a little bit easier for the new musicians, for the new artists, in terms of recording maybe at home, making their own product and distributing their own product with an aggregator? And it's don't you think it might eventually be simpler and finding a community online without having to travel? What do you think about these commodities with technology?
I think that the ability to create interest is just as hard as it's ever been, if not harder. When you go into that with accessibility and the ability to create things, and you look at, well, these things were uploaded and available, but how many times did someone go to those? I mentioned the figure in 2023 of like 184 million uploads. There's 50 million plus that didn't receive one play. So that's a little bit
Wow,
depressing.
that's terrifying. That's actually
Yeah,
terrifying.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
in 2023, there were only 19 uploaded compositions that achieved a billion streams. 19 out of 184 million. So it's
Mm.
you look at the major label system, the independent label system, and radio and hard sell. That was sort of like a wall that you had to break through. I don't know that. I think the wall's gotten higher with just the sheer amount of options, and it's harder to find good. So it is important, as you said, David, to have those communities and to have that to where people become aware of it, and people who still love music, and that they're gonna find it, they're gonna talk about it, they're gonna, I always say
Mm.
it's important the level that you make someone love something or hate it. It really doesn't matter which. It's like if you achieve it in a grand manner that they'll talk about it. If they hate it so much, like I hate something so much, I'm going to tell Julio, and Julio's going to like it because he doesn't like what I like, and then he's going to tell you to listen to it, and
Yeah.
get people to talk. And that's always been the scene. So.
But for example, I think you're saying a lot of really interesting things, and one thing that actually happens when consuming music is that music has different purposes on our lives, and you don't listen to the same type of music when you're making different activities. For example, you don't listen to the same songs when you are working out, and you don't listen to the same songs when you're with your friends, probably having some beers, and then
Or you don't listen music.
or you don't listen to music at all because you're concentrated on something else. So, what do you think? For example, there is music that has social purpose, and there is music that has personal purposes. How do you
Right.
think that this competition might affect the artists that create genres and styles that are more personal rather than social music?
I think that there's incredible opportunity from what you just described very well. I have a friend who develops and manages artists in Europe, who lives in Berlin, and he makes ambient music for just for you to do your life that's streamed on Apple, or music that you put on for a specific pet like a cat, or different music for a dog, and it's basically streaming through your system for whoever's in the house, so that there is some sort of activity, and he works at trying to make it appealing and interesting, um, to the human, to the cat, to the dog. This
Wow.
just going on
I
as
need
sort of,
that for my dog.
yeah, yeah. It sets sort of an ambience for you to cook dinner, or clean the tub.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm gonna look. I'm
Washing
gonna
dishes.
look for that. I'm gonna look for that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
And actually, that's something that composers think about when they're beginning a piece or a song. If, for example, an artist is used, for example, a rock artist or a new metal artist is used to work out on the gym, well, the composer actually knows that and tries to make this 2/4 kick like super hard, so that it
right.
can, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, amazing. We actually have another question from Andrea Navarrete. What role do you think modern technology and AI play in the future of audio engineering and music production?
Good question, Andrea. I'm pretty much gonna say what I actually think. Um, it's gonna take away good enough. So if I have to have something, if I have to have music created to be the intro into a podcast or into a game show or a new car or whatever, I probably could use AI for it to be good enough. But if I'm going into like a filmmaker or that like or a serial um, uh, program like Stranger Things or any of the Tyler Sheridan things, you're probably going to look for someone very specific. I notice a lot of the Tyler Sheridan sort of music is like Daniel Lanois esque, like things that Daniel Lanois did as soundscapes and film and different things like that. So I don't know that AI will ever um, replace unique, someone going for something different, someone attempting to be exceptional and or different. So I feel like AI is just going to replace we have a term we say music by the pound, which is you're creating music that has a necessity, something that has a greater purpose. So I think AI will replace good enough, but
Great,
I'm not
thank you. Thank you
not
for your
interested.
answer.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't want that AI replaces.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And the thing is that in the music industry we have seen a lot of this type of developments in the past. For example, MIDI, when people said that MIDI was eventually going to damage the work of session musicians. And to be honest
right.
with you, I think it did. I think it quite did. I mean, we still use session musicians for some purposes, but not for all purposes. So that's the point. So, for
Right.
I
example,
think that MIDI is amazing.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
Sorry.
No, I do
Yeah.
think that MIDI is amazing, but for example, I think stock music is going to suffer a lot from this, from AI development.
Uh, it will suffer until it's in the hand of a creative. If it's a person who is a creative business person and they're using it to create something good enough for their purpose, it'll never be exceptional. But if you have a creative who can incorporate AI as another part of their toolbox, then you have something that's incredibly useful, just like MIDI. I mean, Roger Lynn showed Jeff Porcaro the drum machine, and he said, "That's incredible. Now smash it." There was a lot of programming in the 80s up to hip hop and much better programming that got into the lag and the swing of MPC and different things. Programming was pretty abhorrent, like meaning pretty bad from the beginning
Yeah.
of drum machines. People who weren't drummers, and you solo like Bernard Purdy or John Bonham or Jeff Porcaro or any of these people, and you're like, well, that's the groove. There are session musicians who call click tracks the death of music. One's a really good friend of mine, and there's a point to that. I mean, there is a need for click. There's also a need for the programmer to understand how to create like a grid from the playing and make things swing. Um, you know, uh, to actually that grid as opposed to a rigid grid. I think the very beginning of program music was is pretty funny to go back and listen to.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
have
we are
another.
computers at the beginning. Okay. Go sick.
I do have another question. Last question from Felipe Calle. Any advice for someone who wants to start as an assistant in a big studio like Oceanway?
Um, you just have to keep trying and be persistent. But once you actually get that opportunity, your attention to detail is very important. So if you are able to come in and intern at a large studio where projects are going on, one of the easiest ways to begin to earn more trust is to kind of see what's going on, even from from a very simple beginning. If everyone is there and they're out working on a song and they're working on trying to get the arrangement and get the performance, and you know that they're getting close and there's no coffee in the room, you're going to observe that at that point a lot of the people or um, major players or session leader or concert master, depending on the genre, they're going to come into the control room and listen to what that recording is. If you've had the initiative and the attention to detail to make sure that there are a lot of clean cups and there's new coffee, and just in the very beginning of being an intern, of doing that sort of attentiveness and assertion to be prepared, that doesn't go unnoticed. A big project could be uh, years before they do another project, but the producers, the arrangers, the writers, the players, they're in the studio every day. So that's where they work. So if someone has the detail, if there's something mentioned and you signal to the person that you're going to run out there what is needed, and they say change the cable, and they give you a number, and you go out and you do that fast and you do it right to where you don't create another issue, these things get noticed. Those little things lead to you're getting the cable, you're replacing the DI, you're giving someone checking their cue to make sure what the problem is with the headphones, rectifying that, keeping the momentum up. um, the main thing is the persistence to get in the door. That's pretty much the easy part. How you stay in the room and grow in the room is really just having your antenna up. You're not looking at your phone. You're not reading a book. You're not yawning. You're not showing signs of disengagement. You're looking for what's needed because it's a team and the team is there to win and it's very expensive. And the size of the team makes it more expensive every minute. So if you have an orchestra and they're doing a game score and all of that, you think about the studio, you think about the engineer, all of the players, all the flights, all the hotels. Every minute is significant amount of money. So every minute lost is in hundreds and then sometimes thousands of dollars.
Yeah, well, Joe, it's amazing, and you said the word flights, hotels, and to my mind came the Soundcheck Expo and the Pan American Audio Educators Conference. Yeah, so are you going? Are you going to the Pan American Audio Educators Conference?
I am. I'm looking forward to being there and being with educators from around the world and collaborating and discussing and debating these ideas, that these wonderful questions that the audience has asked. I mean, these are the things we talk about, and we get ideas. We see what's on the forefront of technology. We see what the history is. We get um, to see students and Techno Monterey and incredible other programs that are close in proximity. And it does a lot to show like the amazing job like Guadalupe is doing there, and other instructors from other parts of the world, and it just kind of like makes the world smaller. We're
Yeah.
creatives are definitely a community, and the more that we can meet and reduce borders mentally and as politics, you get
Hmm.
to create things that feed the soul.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
going to be a great event from our friend John Krivit, who has
yes,
created the community High Audio Student. And Sik, can you tell us more about the event, please?
Yes, I can. So the Pan American Audio Educators Conference is taking place from March 29 to the 31st. It's going to be at Mexico at the World Trade Center. So you are going to be able to also attend the Soundcheck Expo because it's co-run with the Soundcheck Expo. You're going to be able to meet a lot of educators.
Well, it seems it's going to be a great event, and I hope to see you there. Hope to see you, Ian, Joe, Justin Gray, Michael Romanowski. Well, all the friends, and of course, John Krivit. Hey, Joe, I
yes.
promise you that is we will only take 1 hour of your time, but I have a last thing. And for all the people, all the audio new generations, uh, can you give us an advice? There's a lot of people around the world studying music, audio engineer, and sometimes and I include myself. We are like we're going to do because there's a lot of competence and everything. And can you give us an advice because you're a successful person in all the industry, please?
Learn to uh, learn to separate criticism from who you are as a creator, and find the balance of how you react to that. You're don't be precious you're in a medium and you have tools that allow you to go a different direction and come back to where you were before you did that. It's uh, like being quiet and listening in a room and just going with the direction rather than debating it is a hard thing to learn. But you can learn something even if you don't use it. You want to be a part of things that you know are successful, even if you don't like it, to see what goes into that and how it is created. You want to take those tools to where your interests are and to apply that skill set into those. And you also want to know that how what you create, how it is criticized, or how it is received isn't you as a person. It's always it's not how many times you try, how many times you fail. It's that you keep trying and that you keep going and that you are willing to take a risk to fail, and that you're not really like it's not Teflon skin. It's not any of that sort of thing. It hurts when you really believe in something and maybe it doesn't connect, but you can't really reason why that occurred or demotivate you. You've learned something in that process, so you have to be positive about what you learned in that process, right or wrong, and take that into the next process. It's more important that you go to a next process of creation than it is to be disenchanted. It's hard when you're trying to start and you're doing the whole sort of like um, food, transportation, and a place to live thing. You don't want to uh, let your needs as a human to exist get into a place to where you feel that you're in desperate circumstances. Anything that you can do to avoid that will help free you up from potential bad decisions. So it doesn't mean that you won't take gigs that you don't really want to do, or that there will be times that you don't have gigs. It's that you find a way to create. If you're not getting called and you're a creative person, and you can start ideas and organize your ideas, you're going to be in a room where someone's looking for a start, and you're going to win the trust, and you can apply your idea when people are looking for an idea. And who knows, you might not just be an engineer or a producer. You might become a musician on that recording, or you might become a songwriter as a programmer, or as beginning sort of a feel of a sound of something that people can take that and incorporate it into what eventually becomes as a collaboration. So you can't look at the thing that you're in and that moment being a thing that's going to make your entire career or break your entire career. It's just another day, and the goal is to do the best that you can in the time allotted with the funds that you have, and learn from that experience.
Thank you, Joe. It's gold for us. That thank you. Well, time is over. I want to thank you. I want to thanks David for everything. He's in the controls, and well, thank you a lot, David. And well, Joe, I hope we can meet again in Mexico in like 2 months. Okay. Thank you for
Yes,
all.
yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you, Julio. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, and thank you for all the audience. And tomorrow we are going to be with the Master of Teachers. He's Chilitos Valenzuela. He's going to uh, connect it from Los Angeles. So see you tomorrow. Bye bye.